Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Imam al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid, rahimahullah, rahimahullah, rahimahullah. Alim from the ulama of Ahl al-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now, I don't want to go too much into his life. Obviously, this is not the time or the platform. But in his life, there is a blessing and a lesson for us all. A lesson in ikhlas, a lesson in ilm, a lesson in worship, and a lesson in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali was heavily affected by ilm al-kalam for most of his life. Most of his life. In actual fact, he was so heavily affected by ilm al-kalam. He was affected not just by ilm al-kalam, by philosophy and theorizing, but also tasawwuf. And he was actually one of the pioneers that fused ilm al-kalam with tasawwuf. Before, ilm al-kalam was one thing and tasawwuf was another thing. But he was affected so much, it created this fusion between the two, which has probably never been seen before. And the likes of what came out from that was wahdatul wujud and hulul and things like that. I'm not saying that he is to be accused for that, but definitely there is deviation involved when it comes to ilm al-kalam and the influence that it had on tasawwuf. But he, rahimahullah, towards the end of his life made tawbah. And this is thabit, this is well known from the books of the historians. He made tawbah, rahimahullah. And he died with Sahih Bukhari on his chest, rahimahullah. He had a love for the aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah and the manhaj which was Salafi, to the extent that he was reading and had a connection to it. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to take him. A lesson in ikhlas, my brothers and sisters. A person could be far away from Allah, but if a person has ikhlas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-hadi. But a person could be close to Allah, but if he is not sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give him a good end. So Abu Hamid al-Ghazali rahimahullah is an Imam when it comes to the Shafi'i madhab. He is an authority in the Shafi'i madhab. And this is what I'm trying to say, though. I mean, he was a person who had a great deal of ilm, but he was affected by ilm al-kalam. And walillahi alhamd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him and accepted, inshaAllah, his tawbah. So who is he? He is a man from Ahl Sunnah. Allah knows best, but I mean 80% of his life was in ilm al-kalam, maybe even 90% of his life was ilm al-kalam, but he made tawbah towards the end of his life, rahimahullah. Now here is an important question that you are asking: can we then quote al-Ghazali? Now al-Ghazali rahimahullah, he has some things that he said, well, most of the things that you probably heard from him, that he said in his book Ihya Ulumuddin, which is a book which is full of deviation and perhaps even things which are kufr and shirk, and to the borderline of, kufr and shirk when it comes to aqeedah. This book is a precious book, but it is a book which has got deviation in it. And the reason why I say it's a precious book, the ulama of Ahl Sunnah, such as Ibn Qudamah rahimahullah, came after and he purified the book. And he's got a abridgment of it, or a Sunni version of it, if you like, Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin. And it's a valuable book because in it is a book which is talking about Fadail A'mal. In it is a book which is encouraging the reader to worship Allah and to connect to Him. But previously, when it was infiltrated with things from ilm al-kalam and philosophy and things like that, I mean, those things are not going to get anyone closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my point here is, when you're quoting Ghazali, you have to be careful where the source is and what period of his life he is quoting from. Now with this is something which is really important, that the ulama of the Sunnah from the time of the Salaf, they have said that if something is quoted from a person and we are not sure upon this person's manhaj, then it is better to leave it. In actual fact, the person must leave it, because you don't know who this person is or what period of his life he is quoting it from, and you don't need it, quite frankly. There's always a substitute from within Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I'll give you an example. Imam, this is a story that was related to us by Sheikh Salih al-Sheikh Hafidhahullah. He said Imam Ahmad rahimahullah was invited to listen to a person who was a wa'id, a person who reminds people. So Imam Ahmad, he didn't know the manhaj of this person or anything like that, so he listens to him, but he listens to him from a place where he is not sitting in the same sort of location, so nobody can see that Imam Ahmad is there listening. So the person is talking and the person is talking. Imam Ahmad is weeping and he is crying. And at the end of the lecture, or whatever that reminder was, Imam Ahmad is weeping and he's clearly been affected. The person is talking about the dunya and the akhirah. So he says to his students, now look at this, he says to his students, don't listen to this man because he is a mubtadi'. In this we learn that a person, if he is not able to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong, the Salaf have said, stay away from it. So this is what I would say about Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah. This is when we say this with utmost respect for him. And like I said, some of the ulama have called him an imam because he's an authority in the Shafi'i madhab. I would say because of the fact that he's had his life embroiled with bid'ah and kalam, and sometimes, you know, it was good and sometimes it was bad, as in his life, as in a period of his life which was on goodness and a period of his life which was on badness. Because you've got that confusion there, avoid it. Because of the fact that the people of bid'ah have, you know, latched onto him and quote him all the time, avoid it. And this is what I would say should be the stance when it comes to Ahl Sunnah. And what I've done is basically given you a summary of what the likes of Ibn Taymiyyah and others from the ulama have talked about when it comes to Abu Hamid al-Ghazali rahimahullah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has mercy on him, and He has mercy on the ulama of the Sunnah, and He preserves those that remain, and that He makes us of those who are the best of followers of the Kitab and the Sunnah, and those who have the utmost respect for our ulama and learning and respect for them and following the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted them with, and He makes us the people of Ikhlas so that we have a good end. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina.